if you're just tuning in, wondering what in the world's going on, here's a quick rundown of what you missed on the stimulus front. Okay. So there's been a lot of movement over the past 24 or 48 hours on the stimulus front. The House once again punted on a vote on the bipartisan infrastructure bill. So Nancy Pelosi basically punted on this. Joe Manchin still dealing with, we're not really sure exactly where Senator Manchin is on all of this, Senator Sinema, et cetera. But progressives have won this first round. They stood up to Joe Manchin. So because Nancy Pelosi punted this vote, Joe Manchin loses this first round. So does Kyrsten Sinema. So basically on what they'd support in a reconciliation package, we didn't really know, and they haven't really made it public. So we don't exactly know what's on their plan right now for this legislation. It was a big blow, though, to these House moderates who had cut a deal with Nancy Pelosi to hold the vote on September 22nd. That's the thing. So there was supposed to be this vote on September 22nd, and she had made a deal with these moderates. But progressives had said, wait a second, we already had a deal. We had a deal. How are you making a separate deal? The deal was we're putting both of these big stimulus packages together so you don't screw us over. We're going to pass that $1 trillion bipartisan big dry hump to Wall Street. And then we're also going to get our $3.5 trillion stimulus package. We're going to pass them simultaneously so you don't screw us over again. Pelosi said she was going to hold a vote, and then suddenly, no, they're not. So it's an interesting battle unfolding. I mean, looking at Nancy Pelosi standing her ground to progressives, and in some ways also standing her ground to moderates. So she's trying to have it both ways, but she's good at this. So
Well,
she was good, she's good at trying to negotiate both sides of this because now both sides have something to hang their hat on in this.
since when were these senators and Congress people able to bypass journalists and get full page articles in Wall Street Journal and all this stuff to write themselves?
Yeah, and not tell us what their positions are, you mean?
Yeah. Is this a new phenomena? I mean,
I don't know. It's an interesting phenomenon. And the thing is, these journalists try to get answers from these people, and they can't actually get answers from them. Like yesterday, I don't know if you saw this. Let me see if I can find this quote here. So yesterday, a reporter was asking Joe Manchin about conflicts of interest now. Like, obviously he's got all these ties to big coal and all of these other things, and his family has all these ties to different things. And so a reporter asked, see if I can pull this up here. Yeah, here it is. So this reporter asked Joe Manchin this yesterday. Regarding the energy company that the Manchins founded, your son still owns it, right? Doesn't he? Manchin, you do best to change the subject. Like, that's what he said to a reporter. You do best to change the subject. No. No. Let me get this right. Senator Manchin, you answer to us, not the other way around. You do best to change the subject. Yeah.
See, that's why these, like, if I was somebody and I was a journalist and I was going to be interviewing one of these people, what I would do on the side is I would set up my phone and I would go live. And the reason I would go live is try to get as many viewers. And like, you're going to really give me that answer in front of like 30,000 people right now? Really?
Right.
So no, you better answer this question, because if you get up and walk away, you're walking away from 30,000 viewers or whatever it would be.
I wish this would have streamed live yesterday, to your point. Yesterday, reporters asked him, they said, Joe, why are you trying to go around this plan? Democrats had a plan that they were going to pass these spending bills together. Yesterday, in front of reporters, he said, what are you talking about? I don't know anything about these plans being passed together. Are you kidding me? Literally, he literally, Joe Manchin and Stephanie Murphy from Florida are now saying that that strategy never existed, which is total garbage. Bernie Sanders was asked about that two-track approach. We've been reporting it here on the show for months, how Democrats, progressives specifically, got them to make sure that they were going to pass both of these bills simultaneously, right? I mean, everyone watching this show right now knows that story. You're all educated. You've watched this show. You know that was the deal. right? This is not news. So yesterday, Joe Manchin and Stephanie Murphy were like, we never heard of this plan. Like literally, this is what they said. We never knew that this strategy existed. Murphy, in fact, went on to call it historical fiction. And Manchin said, that's news to me. I never knew about that. Never heard about that, he told reporters. He defended his position back in June on this two-track approach. So then they asked Bernie Sanders about it. They're like, hey, Bernie, Joe Manchin says he doesn't know anything about a deal about having this two-tracked approach. And Bernie Sanders is like, really? It's easy to find. Just Google it. That's what like Senator Bernie Sanders is like, what are you talking about? Have you lost your mind? Morons. Even June 24th, Nancy Pelosi at a press conference said she was firm in her position. I'll quote what Nancy Pelosi said. We will not take up a bill in the House and the Senate until the Senate passes the bipartisan bill and then and a reconciliation bill. If there's no bipartisan bill, then we will just go to the Senate and when the Senate passes a reconciliation bill. But I'm hopeful that we will have the bipartisan bill. There ain't going to be no bipartisan bill unless we have a reconciliation bill. Okay? Like, they literally don't remember, or they just literally. I've seen interviews with Joe Manchin, where I feel like he's just in a total bubble. Like he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. People want to make fun of the cognitive decline of Biden. Look at Manchin. He literally is living in a freaking bubble with yes men, sycophants surrounding him. He has no idea what he's talking about.
Well, and why would they care? Because the thing is, like, so using Biden as an example, Biden said $2,000 checks will go out next week if I get into office, right? They had but this whole campaign on it, and then it didn't happen. And then they come out and say, no, I never said that. I said we'd follow up with the difference. And then everybody's like, no, he never said that. Like people start defending them when they say they never said it. When they're even when there's proof, if you can show people video of them saying exactly what they said, and they're still like, yeah, but that's not what he meant. That's not what they meant. So that's why they keep doing it.
We're in a I don't even know how we would describe the era that we're in, right? I mean, like literally President Trump could get up there and say something, right? And then the next day he could say, I never said that. And there's a video. He literally the day before said it at a press conference. And like he and Kayleigh McEnany and they was like, no, he didn't say that. Like, where are we living? And we can't even. There's nothing to come back from in that now. Like, okay, you really? Here's video of you saying it.
Well, and not only that, they'll say that, no, they never said it. Then once you show them the video, they're like, well, but this is what he meant.
Right.
This is what he was trying to say. Like, how do you know that? Like, they just say what they need to say at that moment to get out of the press conference, to get us all excited that this is going to come. But then behind closed doors, they say different things. Then they come out and say the reason that they did it. And they're like, well, I didn't say that, and then people are like, well, they never said that. So it's just like, what are we living in? What is this? That's why I always say, look at what they do, never what they say. Cause what they say is always like a lie.
It's always garbage. I mean, they all lie. I mean, we all know that. And by the way, Belinda says, what is a sycophant? Oh, it's a great word. A sycophant it's one of those words that sounds like what it means. Like, what is it? Like onomatopoeia? Like sycophant. Like it's someone who just blindly sort of sucks up to somebody, right? It's people like, when you ever hear the term like yes men, when people surround themselves with yes men, they don't have any dissenting opinions. They just surround themselves with, oh, what do you think, Mr. Morris? Oh, that's so brilliant. Mr. Manchin, that's so brilliant. You're such a brilliant man.
So the actual definition of it is a person who acts obsequiously towards someone. Yeah, it's towards someone important in order to gain advantage.
Okay. So maybe they don't even necessarily believe that particular person, but they just suck up to that person to get something out of it.
It's like every celebrity's friend.
Right. It's entourage, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's entourage. That's, I guess, what it could be.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a perfect.
Well, and I shared that meme on Morning Invest on YouTube, that meme that says, if we lie to the government, it's a felony. If the government lies to us, it's politics. And that needs to change. Mm-hmm. Like it should be a felony when they lie to us too.
Yeah, that's going to happen. So both sides, in this battle right now have something to hang their hat on. So Thursday began with House moderates begging for an infrastructure vote. Josh Gottheimer out of New Jersey begging for this. And then progressives said, no way, we will defeat the bill on the floor. So I'm here to say progressives win round one. Progressives held their ground. Good for them, finally. Clearly, progressives got the best of the moderates yesterday in a battle. But there was plenty for various Democratic factions to be encouraged about because they all had some wins yesterday as they head into today's session. By the way, can I just say this? This is a little sidebar news nugget for you. This is not something you're going to see anywhere else, but this is a little nugget that I read about this morning and I thought was fascinating. Nancy Pelosi last night at 10 p.m., instead of saying, hey, we're done for the day, ending the legislative day, she literally basically just said, we're taking a break to go home and sleep, but didn't end the actual legislative day. So technically, and the whole reason she did that was for the moderates, so that basically they could say that there was a vote on, if they vote today, it's technically still Thursday in Congress. Literally, it's like they've taken a time machine. So Thursday's legislative session is technically at this hour still in session, meaning that if they vote today, then moderate Democrats will say, see, I told you we voted on Thursday, technically, and they get a win. Isn't that amazing? Like literally, that's what Nancy Pelosi did just to appease some of those moderates in the party.
Jeez.
Who would even think of that? Nancy Pelosi thought of it. And hey, it's a good little strategy, right? So that they can actually say, we didn't know. We said we were going to have a vote on Thursday. It's technically still legislative Thursday. So even though it's Friday for you, it's Thursday for Congress, by the way. Just a little, I thought you'd find that fascinating. Anyway, progressives. It's fair to say that progressive Democrats are moving with new urgency right now. They're definitely not going to just give into Nancy Pelosi and the rest of the Democratic caucus. That's important for the group because it's 96 members of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. They stuck together. And 96 members of the Progressive Caucus showed just how much influence it actually does have. So good for them. But progressives also found out yesterday that they have a lot more compromising to do, considering that they're about $2 trillion away from Joe Manchin's top line number right now. And there's still confusion as to what Kyrsten Sinema will accept. We don't know. She's out just like riding bikes and accepting money from donors. So we don't know what the hell she wants. Meanwhile, hey, go ahead.
I was just going to say she's also wearing earrings that don't match her clothes.
How dare she?
I know. It's like you can do all the other stuff. I don't care, but just have some dignity.
The backlash for Sinema is pretty strong right now. I mean,
yeah. Her own party in her state is like giving her ultimatums.
They voted to censure her, basically.
Yeah.
a vote of no confidence. Overwhelmingly.
Yeah.
They're like, we're watching you. We're watching you. How you vote on this, we're watching you. We have a vote of no confidence out for your neck right now. And Philadelphia Inquirer this morning, reading the Philadelphia papers, was amazing. They're like, this is what happens when you don't remove money from politics. Kyrsten Sinema, perfect example of what you wind up with. Money in politics. Kyrsten Sinema is like the poster child for this right now.
You know what we need? We need Walter Solchuk to take a bat to her Corvette and be like, this is what happens, Kyrsten. This is what happens when you steal or what is it? When you don't do your homework or something like that. Is this your homework, Larry?
I don't know.
Did you ever see The Big Lebowski?
I don't think I'm quite familiar with that phrase.
I don't know if I remember that one or not.
You never saw The Big Lebowski?
Oh, yeah. I did. I don't remember was there a...
Where he finds the homework in the car, like the briefcase is stolen. And he's like, I'm gonna teach you a lesson. And he goes out and beats the crap out of what he thinks is the kid's Corvette, and it ends up being the neighbor's.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Hey, Joanne Morgan says, hey, Clayton and David, I was a subscriber for over a year. My debit credit card changed. My subscription ended. Now I have to start over with the colored dog icons. Makes me sad.
Wow. Sorry. I wish there was something we could do, but there's nothing we can do about that.
It's all YouTube back in.
Yeah.
Thank you. My haircut, Lady Drew. Lady Drew says my haircut looks good. Thank you so much. My son's looks good too. So anyway, let's talk about the moderates now. We talked about the progressives on this. Moderates, they hate to say it, but I mean, I think we predicted, well, I hate to say this, I think we predicted this back in August, didn't we? There was never a doubt that the moderates' whole push for this September 27th vote pushed progressives. And I think in many ways, they probably overstepped their bounds here. Like, I think they were testing this. They're like, are progressives really going to stand here, draw a line in the sand? It was like testing AOC. And guess what? They did. House Democratic Caucus, they drew a line in the sand. So that deal was worth nothing. That whole the deal that they gave with Nancy Pelosi for the September 27th vote, worth nothing. Representative Josh Gottheimer even went on CNN yesterday and said that he was 1,000% certain that there would be a House vote on the infrastructure bill, and he said it would pass on Thursday night. It didn't happen. So sorry, guys. Moderates lose this first round, but we'll see if they ultimately win the war, which is, what sort of money will be lowered in all of this and where the top line is. So a lot of people wondering, what the heck does Manchin want? I've gotten emails from you. You're like, what in the world does Joe Manchin want? There's been a lot of mystery around, like, what is his number? What is he doing? Like, what does he want? Well, interestingly, one of the big mysteries in all of this is what exactly do the two Democrats want? Really, Senator Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. What are they holding out for? They've been both like really, really coy about the whole thing in public. They're not saying what exactly they want. What is the top line number?
That's because they're getting it behind the scenes. They're getting what they want. They're getting donor money.
Right. But so is it the donor money? And then I think here's what I think, right? Because Joe Manchin says he doesn't want the $3.5 trillion over 10 years. So is it that he doesn't want he doesn't care about the money so much? He cares about the taxes and what these big businesses are going to pay in taxes. He's couching it though as this top line number, and I think it's his backwards way of trying to get this taxes lowered so that he can because if he comes out publicly against the taxes, that doesn't look good. But if he comes out against the overspending, that looks better.
Right. But I think that's a direct result because the donors are like, look, dude, we're not going to donate to your campaign anymore if you make our taxes go up. So he's like, okay, so this is going to be my position, and he has to find a way to make it look like it's not because he's getting money to us when ultimately that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. I mean, last night, Manchin released that whole screed about the financial insanity of spending lots of money on social programs while raising taxes on the Americans wealthiest to pay for it. He said, like, I don't like this idea. But he wasn't terribly specific about any changes that he wants to the package either, other than insisting that we should wait to see whether poor people stop being poor, basically. That's like basically
Well, I think
his
that's
plan.
intentional because the more he's clear on his position, the more of a trail there is to why. You know what I mean? So the more vague they can be, the more that they can play it off that it's ethics.
I mean, really, the only thing I think that it came down to is for him to say, maybe Congress should just wait to see how poor people really are. Like how poor are you? And then also we should means test any new benefits to make sure that the middle class won't support the bill since it's frozen out of getting any help, right? We're going to means test this. So based on, can you prove that you're really suffering? I would like you to prove that you're really suffering.
Why don't they means test UBI in West Virginia, the poorest state in the nation almost?
Universal basic income in West Virginia.
Yeah.
Why don't we use that as a pilot program? You could means test that. One of the poorest countries, one of the unhealthiest states in the country. And I don't say that because I'm being mean about West Virginia. I love West Virginia. I live there. I love the people.
My best friend is from there. I love them too.
And they just get screwed routinely by people like this, by people like Joe. There was an article this morning in The Guardian called, Joe Manchin is really a coal baron. Like he's still every year receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars from the coal industry, like in new investigative journalism piece this morning in The Guardian. Over $500,000 a year at minimum he's getting from these fossil fuel companies.
Well, not to mention the kickbacks he's probably getting from his son and daughter with what they're doing.
Right. Yeah, but we can't talk about that. You
No.
know, you're not allowed to talk about that
denying.
if you're a reporter and you ask him that question. Hey, Joe, the energy company the Manchin founded, your son still owns that, doesn't he? You'd do best to change the subject, reporter. Oh, I'm sorry. Don't you work for us? Like,
Well,
we're
and what's
journalists.
sad is
we're asked to ask you that question. You do best to change the subject.
And what's sad is that journalist probably did.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Manchin.
I don't want to lose this interview.
I don't want to lose this interview. I don't want to lose access to being able to interview you, get answers for things. So as for Kyrsten Sinema, she's even been less clear. Asked whether or not the rest of the Democratic caucus knows where she is, she hilariously said, "I'm clearly right in front of the elevator." Because she's the like, I don't know. Who the heck knows? She thinks she's like Jesus or something. Like, I'm right in front of the elevator. I'm standing right here. We don't know what your position on anything is. Like, you want to tell us what you want? Or are you just going to continue to take money from all these people? However, good reporting today from Politico. They have managed to get their hands on a copy, and we're going to show it to you, a copy of a July 28th document that it says Joe Manchin had been handing out to Senate colleagues who wanted to know what his position on the reconciliation bill might be, if he'd be so kind. So internally, he'd been handing out like his own memo of what he wants in his list. But he's never told us, and when reporters have asked him about it, he's been cagey and sidestepped the question. Clearly, he knows. So it's a brief.
And really quick, if you look at like the people that know their position, they're the people that aren't bought and paid for. The people that know and are clear with their position, and they tell you exactly what their position is, you can almost guarantee that that person is not getting money to have that position. If they have getting money for a position, then they're all over the place because they don't want people to figure out that they're doing that just for money. So it's like that's one way that you can usually tell somebody who's in it for the lobbyists or in it for like because it's something they truly care about.
Yeah. Do you think this list, I'm going to go through this list here. Do you think that this is Joe Manchin's list of what he wants in the budget resolution? Look at the top line. 1.5 trillion for the top line. Now I'm going to go through some of this. I know it's a little hard to read here on your screen, but I'll give you some of the pullaways that I see.
Well, can I ask, isn't that still an arbitrary number? Where the heck did he come up with the number? Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's just say 1.5.
Yeah. Oh, it is all arbitrary. I mean, you can't wrap your head around any of this money that Washington spends anyway. So what are you basing this on? So he says any revenue exceeding 1.5 trillion should be used for deficit reduction. Any money that we spend beyond that should be used towards deficit reduction. He wants the corporate tax rate at 25%. Okay? That's barely an increase. Corporate domestic minimum tax, 15%. Raise the top rate on ordinary income, 39.6%. Raise the capital gains rate, 28% all in. I mean, very, very minimal tax increases, right? He also doesn't want spending on innovation, not elimination. He wants fuel neutral. But the key, one of my big takeaways here is the fossil fuel. If tax credits for solar and wind are included and extended, then fossil fuel tax credits are not repealed. So basically, vehicle and fuel tax credits shall not be limited just to electric vehicles. He wants them to include hydrogen, and he also wants fossil fuels, of course, involved in this. So make no mistake about it, guys. The reason he didn't want to talk about this publicly is because of all of these giveaways for the fossil fuel industry. Right there. Good reporting from Politico, getting your hands on this. So it's a brief outline of some fairly radical changes that he'd like to make to Biden's first term agenda, like slashing most all of it. It's amazing.
Well, and think about it. Think about it this way. He's saying that 28% or whatever corporate interest rate or whatever tax rate. Just think he's got it at 1.5 trillion with that. Let's say they decided to just bump it up to 30. Just 2% would probably take that number from the 1.5 to the 3.5 that they want in the first place. Just a couple percentage points. So why can they never think that way? because that benefit that hurts their buddies just a little bit too much. Like that 2% is going to sting so much they just can't do it.
Yeah, no, because he's taken this money before, but he's not been quiet about. I mean, I dug this up from 2008. Manchin back then demanded a bank bailout before slamming the entitlement mentality, which he's doing now, right? So he demanded the bank bailout in 2008. He played a pivotal role in pushing for a massive Wall Street bailout that funneled hundreds of billions of dollars of public money to the banks whose financial crisis destroyed the global economy and ravaged West Virginia with mass foreclosures.
Wonder what industry he was invested in.
Shocking. Yeah. All you need to do is read about his dirty empire and all of his big rewards from coal companies and on and on and on. These are the guys right now holding this up because they're going to try to push for that. We'll see where we come. But right now, I have to say it was a good night last night. Progressives held firm on this, held their ground, did not allow Democrats, moderate Democrats, to win this first round. They held their ground. So 96 members of the Progressive Caucus said, nope, we're not giving this up. And now we'll see where we come down on this 3.5, 2.5, $2 trillion number. We'll see. Let me know your thoughts on that in the chat below. We'll be keeping our eyes on Manchin, Cinema, and the whole crowd. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. You can also become a channel member by going to morninginvest.com/join, where you can stick it to the mainstream media and support independent journalism. We're able to bring you the stories that you won't see on any of the major billionaire-backed networks. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time, everyone.